September the 10th, 2018. Welcome to the Third Down Show. I'm your host, T. Wayne the Dime. Look, bro, I'm going freehand today because I'm very, very pissed off on how the weekend went this past weekend with the New Orleans Saints. It just how bad we look defensively. And I hope this ain't the memo we're going to see for the next 15 weeks of the season. Talk a little bit about them. We're going to talk about some other storylines around the NFL. I might talk about if I feel like it. LSU this past weekend. LSU beat Southeastern 31-0. Not impressed with it at all. They actually fell down in the AP poll to 12. You know what? Let's go ahead and start. I never cut the intro. That's short. Like I said, it's a beautiful day to be alive on this Monday morning. I hope y'all enjoyed y'all weekend this past weekend. So let's go ahead on. Let's talk about the Bayou Bengals. They beat the the Lions of Southeastern this past weekend. Not too impressed with them. 31-0. Now I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I did not get a chance to really watch this game because I was at work. But from the parts I saw at the end when Southeastern was driving all the way down to the 5. I saw that part, and Southeastern had a high snap. LSU recovered the fumble, ran all the way back. A few scores later, it was in the end zone. That would be your 31-0 score for the Tigers. The Tigers was a 40-point favorite to win this ball game, and they only put up 31 points. I should have went back and watched some of the highlights and some of the clips. But I didn't get a chance to. I apologize for that. That's me. I put that on me not being prepared for this show, so don't hold that against me. But all I can say is, and this is what we're going to cover probably Friday when we get into the day before the game with Auburn, is we have to do a better job of not being so conservative. That's 2 back-to-back weeks, not letting it rip. And your offense put up, a total of 28 points. Now, I got to give it to you. The previous week, they only put up a total of 14. Defense took one to the house. Special teams help you out a lot. And that's kind of what I see the memo of this football team is going to be this year. Defense is going to have to put you in a good position or bring it to the end zone for you to put points on the boards. The kicking game is very, very important. In most aspects of a football team, that's what you want. But that's in the world of a perfect football game. I want to see if LSU going to let this offense rip against Auburn. And Auburn got a talented front seven up front, the defensive line, their linebacker core. They're not going to be able to move their bodies as they normally do running the football-wise. And now I want to see what Joe Burrow going to do this weekend in Auburn. Auburn still got a chip on their shoulder. Remember last year they was up 17-0. LSU come back and win this ball game. Remember that. So, and that's when Gus Malzahn's job was on the line after losing that type of game. And I remember Auburn did beat, I think, 2 number ones at the time. They beat Alabama. They beat Georgia last season to find themselves in the SEC championship game, which they lost. But I think last year they finished the year against UCF in Atlanta again. They lost that too. But so far, so good for the Tigers. They put up, 62 points, I think, this past weekend. They also had a great opening day against Washington. So they got a lot of things to build upon. And LSU, to a degree, you had a great opening day against Miami. You did enough to get by. At the end of the day, defense did not give up a point, 31-0 against, I respect Southeastern because they always do fight hard. But I give the edge to Auburn. But it all depends on how much offensively they're going to trust Burrow and they're going to put the ball in his hands and let him make plays. Now, they could have been playing conservative for a reason, not to show Auburn a lot of film and not to see what they're going to expect was going to come out this weekend, which it's kind of a smart decision. You put a little bit more on film against Miami. You don't put too much. You let it rip a tad bit when it came down to Southeastern. But at the same time, I want to see this young man let it rip. Let it rip. Let it rip. They brought, you here for a reason. Let it rip, man. Let it rip. So I want to, we definitely going to talk about that closer by Friday Pay attention to anything we're gonna hear up on this weekend. This week about the Tigers. Try to get a scouting report, see who's active and inactive for the LSU Tigers as well. But I'm still glad they're in a good spot. But I guess my biggest thing now, I want to see this football team letting it rip. Let it rip. Stop being conservative. Play the game you know how to play, and let it rip. Let it rip. So on my next segment, I got the donkeys of the weekend. Now, everybody knows I'm not trying to copyright nobody from a radio show, but the Breakfast Club, Charlamagne the Guy got donkey of the day. And I like how they got the Remy Ma segment. She said, hee-haw, hee-haw. But donkey of the weekend for me will have to go of the college football weekend for sure. College football weekend, donkey of the weekend will go to Arizona. Arizona is donkey of the weekend, and really more Kevin Summerlin. Kevin Summerlin finds himself right now 0-2 with the Arizona Wildcats. Crazy part is about it, they played opponents the last 2 weeks that was very, very beatable. They played BYU and they lost by 5. They played Houston, they lost by 45 minus 18. I can tell you where it is. Y'all please excuse me. I ain't have my math up. They lost by 27 this past weekend to Houston on the road. Now this week they got Southern Utah at home this Saturday. Then from there they got Oregon State, they got USC, Cal, Utah, UCLA, Oregon, Colorado, Washington, and Arizona State. So I meant to say the University of Arizona. Is Kevin Summerlin the answer for the Arizona Wildcats? Right now it's not looking too good. I mean, his quarterback Tate went for 24 to 45, 341 yards and 2 interceptions on the day. Compared to other side, I don't know the boy's first name, but I know his last name is King for Houston, 17 to 34. He went about half of his. He went 50%, 246 yards and 4 TDs on the day. That's a big difference. And they got completely washed up and down the field this past weekend. It's kind of weird, but that will be my donkey of the weekend. It will have to go to Kevin Summerlin and the Wildcats of Arizona. Got a long way to go. Let's talk about some of the top performances this past weekend. Look, that A&M game was pretty dope, man. It kind of a few calls that got changed, but it was a touchback. But the A&M game was pretty dope this past weekend. Can't wait to see A&M and Clemson next year hook up again, since that's a home and home. One of Jimbo Fisher ever gonna overcome ever overcome Clemson in his lifetime. Let's look back all the way back from Friday. TCU defeated SMU 42-12. Remember, TCU gonna take on Ohio State this weekend. Mississippi State defeated Kansas State 31-10. Vanderbilt defeated Nevada 41-10. Michigan beat West Michigan 49-3. Duke beat Northwestern 21-7. UCF beat Georgia Tech 49-38. Let's see, anybody else important? Oklahoma beat UCLA. Remember, that was a game I was keying in just because of Chip Kelly. 49-21 this past weekend. Kansas finally snap a road losing streak. Finally, after losing the Nichols, they defeated Central Michigan 31-7 this past weekend. Another game I keyed in for y'all guys, it was Georgia and South Carolina. Georgia, the Bulldogs steamrolls the Gamecocks 41-17 this past weekend. Good game between Ball State and Notre Dame, 24-16. The Irish just defeat these cats by 8 points. I told y'all about Stanford and USC. I did tell y'all about Stanford and USC. I can't, hold on, give me a second. Stanford defeated USC 17-3. That kind of put them ahead of the pack, if you ask me, in the Pac-12. So shout out to Stanford for putting themselves in the mix. Look who creeping, look who crawling in the mix. Oh, Stanford. The biggest one to me was Florida losing to Kentucky 27-16. That's another, you ask me, that's another donkey of the weekend. Everybody talking about that's DBU, that's one of the best schools in the country, which there is one of the best schools in the country, but they lost to Kentucky 27-16. Drop another one for them. And for Kentucky, you deserve this one. Finally, that was another streak that was broken this past weekend. I think that was 31 straight wins, losses against them boys. I don't know what it was. Excuse me for not having it pulled up. But Kentucky, it was a 31-game losing streak to Florida, and now that's been snapped. So shout out to Kentucky, man, for finally getting that off their backs and moving forward from that on this past weekend. So we'll get into the college game a little bit later on, sometime this week. We'll definitely come back with that sometime this week, or with some of the college games, and hopefully we'll have something good to talk about that one. I really do hope so. Now, if y'all know me from last year when we did this show, this was normally my theme song for the Cleveland Browns. I always say pray for them because my brothers and sisters, we wasn't doing so good when it came down to watching Cleveland. But I'm playing this song because I'm about to talk about the New Orleans Saints. Now, normally when the Saints do win, I normally play that second line. Well, how the Saints went out like suckers on yesterday, they don't deserve no second line. And the reason why I'm playing this is because the Cleveland Browns is coming to town this weekend. And what that means is Cleveland is undefeated. And they don't have no losses on their record as well. Yes, sir. They are 0-1. They tied with the Pittsburgh Steelers this past weekend. 21 up, 21 down. So what that means now, Cleveland have momentum with the Saints, who had a depleted secondary on yesterday. And also with the Saints, who could not put pressure on nobody. What that mean for the New Orleans Saints? Cleveland is licking their chops and feel like we can come down. If the Saints lose to a backup, we can come down and we can do the same thing that Tampa Bay did and put 0-2 against the Saints to start the season. Now, wouldn't that be something to drop your first 2 home games of the year? Play it, Moses. So let's talk about the New Orleans Saints. That got to be another donkey of the weekend. Got to be with the New Orleans Saints. But to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, way to go. No Jameis Winston. You came in, you shocked the hell out of everybody. Way to go. I can't even sit here and be mad about that. Y'all came in, y'all did what y'all had to do. Y'all threw for explosive plays. Y'all was throwing down the field. The Saints had no answer for you until the fourth quarter. And Ryan Fitzpatrick, play another one for him. I'm going to give credit when credit is due. Ryan Fitzpatrick did what he had to do as a quarterback this past weekend. To me, the game-defining play was when it was that 3rd and 13, and he scrambled and he got the first down because he knew if he gave Drew Brees that football, the Saints had a chance. And I think that's not what they wanted. They definitely didn't want to give New Orleans a chance in them final seconds. Let's talk about Ryan Fitzpatrick. Went 21 for 28. That's too good. 417 yards. 4 touchdowns. Mike Evans was the leading receiver. When Mike Evans beat Marshawn Lattimore, I knew he was in trouble. It was like, man, just cut the game off, please. It's not looking good. Evans had 7 receptions, 147 yards, and 1 touchdown on yesterday afternoon. The Saints had no type of run game. I'm giving it, when I give them praise, but I gotta tear them down as well. 8 rushes for 29 yards, 2 TDs for Alvin Kamara. Drew Brees went 37 for 45, 439 yards, 3 touchdowns. And Michael Thomas, who's still showing why he's one of the best in the game, 16 receptions, 180 yards, 1 touchdown on the day. When you go back and you look at the numbers, it was 14-10 Tampa led. Then the New Orleans put up 14 points in the second quarter. Then Tampa Bay put up 17 points. Remember, Mike Gillislee fumbled. Then they had 10 straight points. They had 17 unanswered points by the Saints. The Saints wanted to put up 16 unanswered, but they couldn't get the other 8 points to tie the ball game up. This was a piss poor performance by the New Orleans Saints. And